Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
And we welcome into our program this morning, into the studio, Tony Henderson-Newport, who's been running the Popup Business School, Aotearoa, down here at Whitireia. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
You're feeling a bit more relieved. The course is over as such as it, but it goes to Coastlands today.
It does, It does indeed. Yeah, the Tuesday afternoon, the second week, is the trade show.
Right.
And really grateful that Coastlands Shopping Mall have given us their main atrium, which I think is called the Garden Court.
Oh, right, yes.
And we'll have about 40 of young entrepreneurs from the course. Yeah. I say young, it's a really mixed age, mixed ethnicity group, which makes the whole event even more exciting.
Sure.
So they'll be down there showcasing their businesses, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so just tell us, for our listeners, the Popup Business School, what is it? What is it intending to do?
Well, it's a really interesting concept, but one that you can get your head around quite easily. It's a 10-day business course. It covers 20 workshops, and some of those workshops are negotiation, building a website in a day. There's an amazing amount of free stuff, and we talk about that in the course. Quite often people think that starting a business these days is complex and expensive. In fact, there is so much more that we can do these days that we couldn't do 5 or 10 years ago. And bringing that to life for our attendees is almost groundbreaking, because it means that there's nothing to stop them starting now for free. And that's a really interesting concept right there. Right.
I suppose a lot of people would like to, but they haven't got the confidence to do it. So you're actually developing this confidence. Yeah,
there's a very strong underlying theme across all 10 days of confidence and motivation, and part of that is about building resilience, because you know yourself, in normal life stuff happens, and sometimes it can be unhelpful and unkind. But for young businesses in particular, especially those that are just starting out, understanding resilience and how confidence plays into that space is actually really helpful.
So this group of, 40 to 60 you've got at the moment, they've come up with some interesting concepts?
They have, yes. I'm really excited that there's such a raft from craft to technology to health and safety to working with local media. Yes. Just an amazing array of talent in the group. I know one of our attendees is wanting to work closely with the real estate industry.
Right.
There's so much of a range, and yet every business has that opportunity to make a difference in the Kapiti community.
Right. So they're thinking outside the square.
Totally.
Yeah?
Yeah, totally. I think, too, what's been awesome is that every day at 11 o'clock we have a guest speaker come along and talk about their origin stories. And just recently, as you know, Chris from the radio station talked about the origins of the radio station in the early days and what it was like. And that's incredibly motivating for our attendees, because that's where they are now.
Yes. And how to start a business with no money. That's not on, is it? It's a no-no, isn't it?
I know, hard to believe. And yet, if you look at just the internet as an example, there are so many options for building a website for free these days. And one of our facilitators started her business about 5 years ago on the back of a friend of hers who felt and did pay a lot of money to build a website, but actually it didn't necessarily do what she wanted. So there's then additional funding that goes towards that. These days, all the templates that are available, some of the online services that are available, means that you can do it for free.
So they're discovering skills they've had but haven't put into use, perhaps?
I think that's true, actually. Even in the negotiation world, if you think about how we negotiate with our kids these days, some of those skills are directly transferable into the business world, and yet it's not something that we necessarily think about.
And some have discovered they could be doing something that they hadn't thought about. Have they sort of bounced off one another?
Well, I think that's one of the things that we love, is building that community. Yeah. And even after the Popup Business School, we have our graduates from that Popup Business School become alumni. And we have alumni in Pororua, Upper Hutt and Wanganui now.
Yes.
And so there's this online portal, closed group, if you like, for the alumni, where they can bounce ideas off in a very safe space, where they can post up a web page and say, hey, listen, I've just created this. What does everybody think? But also there's this other thing, how the local community here in Kapiti are able to collaborate with each other, but also with the local council, with the local businesses, and that makes a difference too. Sometimes I believe that when you're starting a business, you feel like it's all on you, that you're alone, and actually that's not how it's meant to be. And there's so much support services that are available now, and that's one of the things that we put a lot of effort into, especially with Kapiti Coast District Council, is what does it look like afterwards.
So some of these people after 10 days are all ginned up now, buzzing at the moment, but when they leave this course, are they still buzzed up, or do you have to follow them up a wee bit?
Well, one of the things that we've found with the other Popup Business Schools that we've done is, yes, they are buzzed up. We've already got a planned date, 4 to 6 weeks out, where we'll bring everybody back together again.
Yes.
And then there's the alumni, and the alumni leads will have coffee gatherings, bring everybody together in different ways, bounce ideas. Some of them will be collaborating because they've got similar types of businesses, and some of them are looking to collaborate with existing businesses. And some of them are already existing businesses. There's a great little business called Here to Help, and that actually provides support across the whole of the Kapiti community, and it's just how they might do their collaboration with other organisations to make a difference in the community.
So how many?
So I brought it from the UK. It's been running in the UK for about 7 years.
It's all your idea?
I wish.
Yeah, but I mean in New Zealand?
In New Zealand, yes.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, so it was only just over a year ago, March 2017.
Yes.
I was in the UK negotiating to bring the Popup Business School to New Zealand. We ran the first one in Paurua last October. In fact, Mayor Mike Tana remembers me talking to him about this daft idea that I had before I went to England,
yes.
And they were the first one off the blocks, and it was Mayor Mike Tana speaking to Mayor Guru that supported the conversations that went on with the Kapiti Coast District Council to bring it here.
Excellent. So you've got another one lined up?
Yes, we're in Gisborne in June,
right.
And we're just negotiating at the moment looks like it's going to be in Auckland, but close following is Invercargill, and we've got our fingers crossed for Lower Hutt.
Right. So I don't suppose there's much similarity when you go to the various regions as to what people come up with ideas?
Well, no, everybody... It's all unique. That's the great thing. The way that you bring a business to life is going to have your own flavour. The way that you deal with the community, with your customers. What is similar, though, is that if it's a craft business or a creative, it's interesting. There's some similarities in how they might approach things. And so we put a big play on the opportunity you have to sell, because ultimately that's one of the main games in town. If you've got a small business, you need to sell that product or service, because that generates the revenue to reinvest, to grow, to put food on the table. And so not talking about that. And sometimes we don't like, people are going to ask us to sell, and how we get approached sometimes.
Yes.
And yet the key thing for small business owners is just that. It's about selling the products and service and building a wraparound of credibility and rapport, and making people know, because they are going to buy from people they know, like and trust.
Yes.
So building a business with that foundation, having some good core values, that's quite essential, really.
Sure. The Mayor of Invercargill would be interesting, because he's a bit outside the square any time, isn't he?
I think anybody outside the square is a good thing.
Yeah, it is, because I think he'd be an enthusiast of these courses.
I'd love to hope so. I'd love to take it down to the South Island.
Yes, fair enough too. All right, so this afternoon we can go along and have a talk to these people who've been on the course and see what they've come up with.
Yeah, between 1 and 2:30 at Garden Court in Coastlands. And most probably a good chance just to do a bit of a shout out to our sponsors. This would never have happened if it hadn't been for Kapiti Coast District Council, for Xero, who've been a great sponsor, for READER, the Wellington Regional Economic Development Agency, of course Spark Business Hub, and TWOC, who's the Maori Development Arm for the Kapiti Coast District Council, have just been immense. So grateful. Our attendees as well, they wouldn't be there at all, because they can come for free and learn how to set up a business free. Awesome. Thank you so much to our sponsors.
Tony Henderson-Newport, the man who's driving this Popup Business School idea throughout Aotearoa, and brought it over from England about a year ago, and it's blooming on the Kapiti Coast today. So pop along if you're in Coastlands or would like just to pop down for the day and have a little chat to these people between 1 and 2 today at the Garden Court in Coastlands. Tony, thanks for your time this morning.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
There we are. We might have some new entrepreneurs happening here on the Kapiti Coast and coming up with some great ideas here on the coast. Beach FM.
106.3 Beach FM.